there are elements and aspects of this space that are totally unique, that are totally distinct, that require new approaches, new methodologies, new infrastructure, new analytics, new forms of measurement. And I think what we're going to see over the next few years is a sort of Cambrian explosion of new technologies, teams that are built to help marketers navigate this new era.
Hi, I'm Greg Stewart, CEO of MMA Global, the international nonprofit trade association for CMOs who are focused on architecting a new future of marketing.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, market researcher, measurement inventor, and entrepreneur.
Hi, I'm Greg Stewart, CEO of the Marketing Media Alliance.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, marketing researcher, and entrepreneur, and this is Decoding AI for Marketing.
Geez, Rex, there is so much change going on in consumer behavior now. I mean, I notice it for myself. I notice it for my wife. You know, when her behavior really changes because of a new thing like, you know, answer engines, then I know the world's really on it's moving faster than the world expected. Too long, she sort of told me anything she didn't do. But I'll tell you what's really interesting.
I was just with my niece. Who has a business called Shiba Botanica, you know, small like spa. They make stuff in Joshua Tree, and they were asking questions like, "Hey, how do we deal with this Gen AI?" So it's whether you're a small business or you're a large business, this is on your mind, right?
I mean, remember, like the internet was I mean, web was sort of launched in '94. I think even by '99, some people still denied its existence. You know, like it was the craziest thing. But that's not the case today. But here's what's really interesting. Here's what caught my attention. Sets us up for today with this conversation. I have a call with my global board exec committee the other day. So this is some of marketing leaders' biggest people. These are the CMOs of the biggest companies out there, right? We took a half hour and a 1 hour call to talk about AEO, GEO, and what was happening in the world today.
It's hitting everybody.
I was kind of surprised, one, that maybe we hadn't had it already in one regard, and that they were so grasping for information around it.
It is a little bit shocking that it wasn't fully on people's radar a year ago, or maybe even 2 years ago. Yeah. But it's there now, and so we need to go really deep, make sure people understand it. I mean, I'm literally, you know, the exchange was my niece set me up for a free facial at their spa in Echo Park, and then I'm walking around with her husband around the park talking about how to set up your FAQ so that AI can read it and understand it, how to make sure you've turned off robots.txt and what you need to do. But really, there are companies that have formed around a specialization in understanding GEO and helping marketers get this right. We've had a couple on the show, and we have Alex Sherman here with us today to talk about that.
Alex, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's great to be here.
Yeah, good. So, Alex, why don't you give an orientation to who is Bluefish? I mean, listen, you got two options. You can start with who is Bluefish, or you can start with the changing consumer patterns. I mean, we'll probably get to both of those here soon enough, but go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Think of Bluefish as an agentic marketing platform for the Fortune 500. So very simply put, our job is to partner with the largest brands and marketing teams in the world to help them start to manage AI as a new marketing channel. And I think that probably leads right into what you just said, which is, why is it a channel? You know, how do they think about it as a channel? What's sort of driving this shift? And I think, you know, for us, and more importantly for our customers, what they see is that in a very short period of time, the way that consumers use the internet has shifted very, very quickly. And we've seen, you know, traditional consumer search and browse behavior on the internet become AI enabled in a matter of, you know, 2 years. And, you know, I think that is a really unique paradigm shift that has really changed the game for marketers. It's changed how consumers discover and purchase products. And I think right now the marketing industry is sort of recalibrating on that basis.
Talk to us a little bit more about some of the most distinctive use cases that you've seen, where you've seen the biggest move or shift for marketers. I mean, I know Greg was trying to use this a year ago when he was searching for a new car. That's clearly one where you want to have advice. I've been building a travel app called Wander Love to help me plan some road trips, and I basically have AI, telling me where I should stop, what hotels I should stay at, what restaurants I should eat in, really pretty much packaging the whole trip together. What are some of the biggest ones that you're seeing right now that are being disrupted by this new technology?
Yeah, it's been really interesting the way that this sort of new technology has been deployed with consumers over the last few years. And I say that because we're all marketers here. Every 5 to 10 years on the internet, there is a new marketing channel, whether it's search or social or mobile or programmatic.
Yep.
And so as marketers, we're accustomed to change. But usually with those new channels, it takes 3 or 4 years for this new technology to kind of compose and reach like critical levels of consumer adoption. AI sort of was faster than anything that we'd seen before.
Yep.
When we launched the company, for example, there was ChatGPT, there was Perplexity, there were a few sort of pure play like apps that were focused on this new emerging sort of consumer facing AI. And Rex, to your point, I think at that point the consumption patterns were still relatively niche. I think consumers didn't quite know, like, how am I supposed to use it? It was a novelty almost. What happened next was really interesting, though. As soon as ChatGPT launched, it kicked off a bit of a space race where, in a matter of like 12 months, virtually every large consumer-facing application on the internet became an AI platform. So we all remember sort of Google racing to catch up with ChatGPT, launching AI overviews and then AI mode, sort of powered by Gemini. That really accelerated the volume of consumer adoption because, of course, Google has more market share than all of the other AI providers put together. You also saw companies like Amazon start to roll out systems and agents like Rufus. We saw Meta launch Meta AI, Apple launched Apple Intelligence, Microsoft launched Copilot. And so in a very short period of time, I think what ended up happening is consumers were sort of trained on this like better, faster, smarter way to use the internet. And I think that process is still ongoing. Consumers are still learning to use AI. And I think, Rex, your story is definitely like a compelling example of that. Like I have the same conversations with my family every day where someone will say, well, did you know that you can use AI to do X, Y, and Z? So I think like consumers are being trained. And I think importantly, they're realizing that it can be this better, faster, smarter way to do any number of things, and so the pace of adoption, I think, has really forced marketers to maybe acknowledge AI as a new channel, maybe a little bit faster than they otherwise would, or they otherwise would be comfortable to.
Yeah. I think there's the resistance in technology adoption is way lower than it ever was. And I think also the value of AI. I mean, I don't know how many times Rex has been doing, AI stuff for 20 plus years. And he and I, the number of times he and I had the conversation, like, oh my God, that feels like magic. And we're still saying that. But hey, Alex, look at some of the data. So you probably have some of this. So like 37% of consumers now start searches with AI tools like ChatGPT instead of a search engine, right? A number of them still sort of go back and forth, though, or sort of use it, and you've kind of got that built into the way that especially Google has now done it. The typical ChatGPT session on a topic is 14 minutes, whereas a Google search session is 5 minutes. I mean, there really is a dramatic change in behavior going on, right? You guys see some of that, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for our customer base, they're looking at kind of this legacy consumer purchasing journey, right? So like if you talk to any marketer and you look at their sort of marketing systems, organic, paid, analytics, data infrastructure, the whole thing, it's all basically oriented to engage with and message to consumers as they sort of move through their purchasing journey, as they learn about a category, as they sort of poke around a specific niche and comparison shop, and then as they actually get ready to transact. I think what's happened with AI is it has, there's been a lot of talk about like the collapse of the funnel, which I think is maybe a little bit overblown, but certainly the nature of how consumers shop for products, that is shifting very, very quickly. Like if you look at legacy search, this sort of 10 blue links, kind of keyword-based model, and then this sort of manual research project of like crisscrossing around the internet to find what you're looking for. I mean, that's gone. Like at this point, consumers very quickly are starting to expect models to do the R&D for them, to help them get personalized recommendations, to remember their preferences in the same way that a personal shopper might. It's much more of kind of a lean back experience. Like you go do the work for me and you tell me what the best option is. And I think that's one of the reasons why marketers are so focused on understanding this new channel, is that it's not just a shorter funnel, it is a fundamentally different experience for consumers.
Yeah, you're putting a lot more power in the hands of the machine to make the recommendation, because it can save you so much time. Totally. I think that we need to unpack a little bit more than how you then show up, because the question then becomes, if you are a marketer and you want to make sure that you are part of that decision process. I'll agree with you that I think saying that the funnel has collapsed is overblown. What's happened is the process of the funnel has been dramatically accelerated. So you can go from discovery to decision in a single session with the single chat GPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever, Copilot, etc. So the question then becomes, how is Copilot getting the information? How is ChatGPT? How is Gemini, etc.? So what's your advice to marketers then to make sure that you understand, number one, that you have to show up for all kinds of different contextual searches in the semantic way that somebody's looking for information? It's not just a couple of keywords that you used to buy. It's now thinking about a use case that somebody's asking about. Maybe talk about that first, and then talk about how you can begin to keep an eye on your competitors and see to make sure you're getting your fair share of what you think you should get from those conversations.
I love the framing that you used there, because we were one of the first companies in our category to start kind of building software to help marketers, manage this as a true marketing channel. And I remember in the earliest days, there was sort of this race to just sort of show up. Like we heard this a lot from customers. Like, we just want to show up in ChatGPT. We just want to be there. I think, to your point, what has become really clear is it's not just about showing up, it's about how you show up. It's about the way in which you are portrayed. I think this sort of notion that AI is just presenting customers with like a list, and you're either at the top of the list or at the bottom of the list, is sort of overly reductive. What's actually happening is that the models are providing these long-form qualitative assessments of a category, providing recommendations that are deeply tailored and individualized to a consumer, to their stated preferences or not. And so I think the quality of the way that your brand is portrayed in this new channel has become really, really critical. Like, we spent a lot of time focusing on AI accuracy. So the fidelity with which your brand is being portrayed. We've all heard a lot about hallucinations, and I know that the models have made great progress in sort of minimizing that. I think you guys will probably remember the cartoon headlines of last year around Gemini telling users to eat 1 rock a day and that sort of thing. But I will say, as sort of company operating in the space, what has happened is that we've started to see this new like gray zone of hallucinations, where maybe it's not like a really overt hallucination, maybe it's sort of a slight misrepresentation, maybe it's more subtle, maybe it's harder for a consumer to pick up. So an example might be a consumer saying, hey, what is the battery life of this particular device? And the model says it's 8 hours when the battery life is actually 12 hours. Well, if you're a company that lives and dies by battery life, if that is the dimension in which you compete in your category, that can be hugely problematic, even if to a consumer or to a model it sort of isn't picked up. So I think the nature that you're sort of portrayed is really is a really important aspect here. And so going to your question of, okay, so how do you actually manage that? How do you optimize for it? We spend a lot of time helping our customers not just understanding how they're being portrayed, but why they're being portrayed that way. How are the models learning about their category? What are the training sources? Then, if you can do that diagnostic to figure out why the model portrayed your brand in a particular way, then you can start to unpack the toolkit of optimizations. You can start to say, okay, here's what we need to change in terms of our first-party content or third-party content, or here are the technical optimizations. That's sort of the linear process that we tend to take.
Hey, Alex, take it back up to a CMO level, though, as I'm thinking about my board. Like, how would you help them understand this? And maybe you've kind of already said that, so it might be just summarizing. But for senior executives, they don't need to get bogged down into, robot files and,
Yes,
I think it's some, they're going to have people to do that. But I don't know, how do you help them? How do you help them orient, I guess, a plan and a strategy? Would you be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say my CTO isn't in the room with me, so he can't kick me under the table. So I'll simplify. But at the end of the day, the models are basically trained on essentially a download of the internet, right? If you look at an AI response today, there's sort of the foundational model training, and then there's kind of a real-time system on top of it, a real-time web search. And in both cases, that information, so the information that the model learns, is based on the websites that are available on the internet. And as a brand, some of those websites you control, right, like yourbrand.com. Some of those websites are your partners, so maybe you're a CPG company that sells product through a retailer, and so you control the PDP, the product detail page. And then, of course, there's a lot of websites that you don't control, everything from New York Times to Reddit and everything in between. And so I think demystifying agentic marketing is really important, because if you change those inputs, and we're in a particular position that we only work with the Fortune 500. If a Fortune 500 brand changes a piece of content on their website, they add in sort of an explanation for one of their products, or they add a new page that outlines a sort of application use case benefit of their brand, the models will consume that content. They will train on that content, probably within 24 hours. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to turn AI into a propaganda machine for your brand. Absolutely not. But it does mean it's going to have access to sort of brand verified information. And so I would say for most executives, my advice is always to avoid kind of throwing things at the wall and hoping that it works. That actually right now, if you're a marketer, there's an opportunity to create useful content for these models, to help train and inform them in ways that they can't get from other websites. Like right now, if you are a brand marketer, there are 100 angry guys on Reddit that are writing long form articles about how much they love or hate your products, depending on how they feel. Your website wasn't really designed for that use case. It wasn't designed to be a data delivery mechanism for large language models. And so as a marketer, you've got a bit of a content gap that you need to close. And I think this is most obvious in the world of retail, where if you look at the average product detail page, it's 300 words. 300 words is not enough for an LLM to learn about all of the different use cases and applications and benefits across all of the different customer segments that you serve. A model probably needs much more than that, maybe 3 million words, in order to actually learn the idiosyncrasies and unique elements of your brand. And so as marketers, your job is to close that content gap over the next few years, not in a manipulative way. I think that there's a lot of people who think you can hack the models. I think that is at very best short-sighted and sort of myopic. But there is an opportunity for brands to start to create useful training data that helps the models represent their products more accurately.
I think that's a really good point. I think that just to build on it, I said there's probably two layers that I think the listeners need to take away from it. First is if you just start thinking about all the content you already have that you can control through your website, through your partners, that's a great place to start. And I think going deep in the product details pages is essential. And I want to just unpack that a little bit more, which is what you want to do is you want to be able to create a series of scenarios about the type of people that might want to use the product, where it has benefits. And you can have AI help you write those scenarios and those products. If it's trained on your brand guidelines and the use cases, you can create lots of different use cases for how you might want to use the product or where you might want to use it. And I'll give a specific example. For me, I was looking at buying some home stereo speakers from Best Buy, and I like B&O speaker or B&W speakers rather. I was pulling out an old Bang & Olufsen system, getting rid of that, putting the new ones in, but I couldn't find a thin enough dimension one to go over my mantle for the mount to move down over it. And so AI definitely sold me on KEF instead of Bowers & Wilkins, and it was because it had the dimensions. So again, if your product detail page doesn't have basic like dimensions and other problems, you're out of luck. But if you also were to write up and say, oh, this speaker is great for when it's on a moving mantle and you need a thin depth, or this is great for this use case or that use case and so forth. That's really what the AI loves, because it's starting off with someone describing their problem and their need, and it's looking for that semantic similarity of where it aligns up with it. I think the other layer you said that was really important, I want you to expand on it, is that the websites today are not set up for data delivery. And that's a really important point to unpack, because most people don't have an MCP set up. They don't have their data written in JSON. It's not in the language that AI understands and can use.
Hey, Rex, I think you need to break that down for the listener a little bit.
Well, that's what I'm hoping Alex is going to do. So, but if you think about, just quickly, MCP and JSON. JSON is taking the same product information, but putting it in a structure that's very easy for the AI to recognize. So it might have, like, this is a category for depth and width and height, and then it will have the exact dimensions in that after a colon, so and in quotes, and the AI can grab that really easily and pull that and understand it super easily. So we're not used to, as marketers, thinking about our products in as a data feed. So Alex, maybe expand a bit on what can be made available and how you might guide marketers to approach thinking about that data feed point you made.
Yeah, it's so funny because as marketers over the last couple of decades, we've been optimizing and re-optimizing for the human attention span, which is like a chipmunk, and so content has been getting shorter and shorter. Headlines have been optimized to catch someone's eye, to get them to truth really quickly, to get them sort of in and out. Like, here's the product, here's how you buy it. Let's move you into checkout and let's get you out of here. And I think that with AI, you have a fundamentally different stakeholder that you have to solve for. And I think it's clear that, search teams, SEO teams, were kind of the canary in the coal mine in this new category, and that they were the first teams to recognize, like, there's something shifting in consumer search behavior. And they recognized, because they had been sort of doing a lot of technical optimizations for search algorithms over the last few decades, they recognized that maybe this new stakeholder, an LLM, this new sort of bot that was visiting their website, probably had different technical needs than a human consumer might. And they already knew a lot of the basics of sort of, Rex, what you're describing around, okay, well, how do we make our content machine readable? What does it mean for it to be machine readable? What is sort of what are the schema and structures? And to your comment, how do we label this so that an LLM knows what each piece of information actually means, so that it can sort of structure things accordingly? I think we spend a lot of time with our clients helping them go through kind of the technical optimization basics for LLMs. I think, to be clear though, because we're working with large enterprises, most of them have fantastic SEO teams who have been doing this for decades, and they really know their stuff. And so the technical optimization piece is sort of, maybe low-hanging fruit. What I think they end up focusing on next is not just how do we build the pipe, how do we build the technical infrastructure, but what do we actually push through that pipe? Like, now that we have created these new frameworks for structuring our website to be machine readable, well, what do we want the machines to read? And I think right now, brands and marketers are really starting to appreciate that LLMs might have very different ideas about what matters in their category than they do. The models might have preferences. The models might be learning quite a bit from that Reddit forum with that angry guy posting a long form essay about how much he loves or hates your product, that they might need to counteract. And so, Rex, to your point, I think a lot of brands have started to put together structured content that sort of helps mitigate that and starts to manage, okay, well, if the models really care about this particular dimension, or if there are these 3 customer segments where we happen to be underperforming, this is the work of agentic marketing. This is what we need to start to create. And Rex, I know you've got a lot of experience in sort of measurement and attribution. We all know what happens next, right? Once all of these teams are running these experiments and they're making all of these content shifts, the next question is, well, did it work? Yeah. And how do we measure it? And how do we actually do that with the same rigor that we would apply to all of these other marketing channels that we're pushing hundreds of millions of dollars through. Like, how do we do AI attribution so that our teams can really test and learn effectively in this category? And I think right now we're in this really unprecedented moment where most of the Fortune 500 is running these experiments live. It's a really interesting time to be in the category.
Hey, Alex, what do you think is the missing gap in the marketer's knowledge? I mean, that's maybe kind of the whole podcast here, by the way, but I don't know. Can you summarize, like, what do you think they don't know that they should be focused on sort of uncovering and discovering?
You know, it's funny because marketing, you guys will know this, like marketing tends to loop, it tends to rhyme. And we always talk about the deployment cycles of these new channels where you guys will remember the early days of like social media, for example. New category emerges. No one knows what it is. Most marketers kind of dismissed it. Same thing happened with mobile. Like you'll remember when smartphones started to be adopted, marketers were like, why do we need a mobile website? No one will ever shop on their phones. Like it always starts with with dismissal.
True. Yeah.
And then as the consumer adoption scales, marketers are like, oh no, like we actually have to start to manage this. And they have all of these legacy marketing teams. They don't have a mobile marketing team. They don't have a social marketing team. And so they call one of the legacy teams and they say, hey, can you go figure this out? Can you go manage this? But what does that team do? They take the things that they already know, the existing paradigms, and they kind of do this like square peg, round hole thing. And at the enterprise level, that's okay, because from that initial R&D, enterprises make up their own mind around what works, what doesn't work, what are the best practices. These are enterprises that measure everything, they quantify everything. And so from that early R&D, they sort of emerge from this like Wild West period with a real framework for how they want to manage the channel as a business. The reason I say all of that, Greg, is that I think we're going through that same cycle with AI where we talk to a lot of legacy marketing teams that are taking what they know and applying it to this space, and that makes perfect sense. But there are elements and aspects of this space that are totally unique, that are totally distinct, that require new approaches, new methodologies, new infrastructure, new analytics, new forms of measurement. And I think what we're going to see over the next few years is a sort of Cambrian explosion of new technologies, teams that are built to help marketers navigate this new era. We think of ourselves as an end-to-end platform to manage it holistically, but it's certainly not lost on us that there will be many different other players that will enter the space that will sort of pick off various aspects of this new agentic marketing category, however you want to define that. I think we're in the earliest innings of this whole thing.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see a big transformation. Greg, you always talk about in the mobile marketing, and you led a lot of the measurement and the effort in that area, that there was really kind of that Uber moment where people had been just building mobile websites, and then Uber came along and said, actually, you can have a completely different experience because you have these GPS trackers and that connection because of it. And I think that is why I had mentioned MCP before, because we go from let's just have our product detail pages there, and you absolutely need to do that. But at some point you go through and say, how can we directly transact with somebody? And the MCP might become that connection to where you can now transact. Or maybe even more important, how do I personalize the product for you? Because if you're asking for something that's unique, and I have the ability to use AI to also create with 3D printing and the other things, that thing that you want that's more specific for you, that's a completely different user experience. So I do think that you're onto something, Alex, that we're just at the very beginning of this Cambrian explosion that's going to create whole new workflows. And my supposition would be that if you don't have the foundation that Alex is talking about, like right now, then you're going to have a really hard time moving quickly to make the leap to take advantage of some of those new opportunities to connect with consumers in a totally different way.
I think what's really interesting is that when we first started the company a few years ago, I think the reality is that we were helping a lot of companies play defense in this new channel. They were a little bit on the back foot. There was usually sort of the CMO had said, hey, AI is becoming a thing. Someone needs to go figure out what our strategy is here. What's our play? How do we manage this? And so there's a bunch of teams that inherit that mandate and run around sort of running like pilots and testing. What's been really interesting to see across the Bluefish portfolio of customers is that now a lot of brands are starting to play offense. They've sort of switched gear a little bit. And they're like, we've got a major, new product push coming up this quarter, or there's a big, marketing event, or we've got our quarterly earnings or something. There's some initiative. How can we use this channel to be more successful there? Or, hey, it looks like our competitor has really not done anything in this agentic marketing space, in this geo space. Can we win market share? Is this like the early days of search, maybe, where we can get sort of an outsized bang for buck if we move faster? And it makes sense because, these are really sophisticated marketing teams. They live and die by, 1% market share gains in any other mature channel. And so in AI right now, if there's less relative competition in your category, why wouldn't you play offense? I mean, this is a rare opportunity to get points on the board. And so I think we're seeing that mentality shift. And Rex, to your point, I think there is a clear sense that maybe some of the unknowns around agentic commerce, for example, maybe if you can be first, maybe you can exploit that sort of those murky new areas that has a lot of people sitting on the sidelines. So they're like, well, how should we build an MCP, and how is that going to work? We're a big bank. We don't move that quickly. Maybe a competitor sees that and says like, oh, fantastic. Like, this is going to slow everyone in our category down. If we invest early and fast and we build expertise, this is going to pay a dividend for the next 10 years. And we love customers like that because they're right.
Yeah. Hey, Alex, maybe, obviously maybe don't name the brand unless you can. Give a case study of somebody, though. Did you give us a generic example, sort of maybe what they learned, new information they gathered, maybe if it was a crazy new understanding. I don't know. I'm not sure where you'd go with that, but, give us a case study of somebody who's been successful in this area.
Yeah, so I would say generally speaking, our customers are managing towards a few AI KPIs that I'll sort of loosely define as visibility. So when a consumer is using AI to explore our category and they put in a prompt, do we show up? Are we present? And if so, what is our sort of share of voice in that response? There's favorability KPIs. So when we do show up, what is the quality with which we are represented? Are we recommended? Which dimensions are emphasized? Which are de-emphasized? What is the accuracy? So what is the fidelity relative to our brand truth? And then increasingly we're seeing influence. So we talked about how the models are learning from first-party sources and third-party sources. Well, if I'm a Fortune 100 company, I want to make sure that the models are learning from my sources. I want to be my own source of truth. And so we help those companies measure and quantify their relative influence. And so generally speaking, when we publish a case study or when we're sort of setting up a campaign for a customer, they're optimizing for one of those metrics or several of them. So a few examples. We do a lot of work in CPG, for example, and we worked with we continue to work with a large CPG player that they found that with one particular model, their visibility was really low. And this is let's say it's a pet food brand. And so this pet food brand basically found that their visibility for their target customers it just wasn't working. And they were really surprised because they are the category leaders in that particular niche of pet food. And one of the things that they found in their Bluefish account was that the driver of performance in that particular category was based on a particular key phrase that the models had picked up on their competitors' product detail pages that they were sort of framing in a slightly different way on their product detail pages. And so that was the cause of a massive performance gap on this particular model. Based on that analysis, they started to optimize and tune the language that they had on their product detail pages, on their brand.com. The models, within a very short period of time, picked up that slight phrasing shift, and they saw immediate performance gains. Now, I think importantly, one of the things that a lot of our clients are focused on right now is not just seeing performance gains, but they're focused on the durability of those performance gains. I think you'll see a lot of brands who make a slight change and they see a quick pop. They see like a quick sort of surge, and then the models sort of get distracted and focus on something else. So it's a temporary lift. We're seeing across our clients a focus on much more sustainable optimization. So we don't want to trick the models. We actually want to create more of a sustained understanding about this particular dimension. And so we're going to invest in not just a keyword phrase, but we're going to invest in dedicated content to fill out this gap. So we're seeing a lot of net new types of content being created. I want to actually connect that to something that Rex said earlier, which is I think a lot of models are recognizing this content gap, and they're sort of struggling with it too. Like I bet if you guys, I'm sure, have had Sam Altman on the podcast, he'll probably talk about the fact that they are looking for more training data. They're looking for more high quality sources of content. And if you look at some of the new protocols that these models have released, these new agentic commerce protocols, and you look at the way those protocols are structured, they're actively asking the brands, send us more information about your products. Like don't put it on your website and hope that it gets picked up. Send it straight to the source so that we can train on this information. I think we're in like the earliest days of sort of new pathways starting to exist, so that going back to the case study that I described, instead of having to play these kind of like these sort of games with like phrasing and keywords, you actually can sort of say, well, look, we're going to give you all of the information in a much more robust material way so that your models can have a much more filled out understanding of our brand, and we won't run into this issue again.
Yeah. I know we're coming up towards the tail end of our time together. I want to see if I can do a quick lightning question. What's your view on pay to play? Do you think, there's certainly been a lot of talk from OpenAI. Microsoft's been experimenting with this.
Hey, Rex, you mean putting ads in the ad answers in the answer
exactly.
engines.
We had Bill Gross on here before that created that for search. Is that a good pattern, unhealthy pattern? I know that's not giving you a lot of time to answer.
Where's Bluefish on that one? There we go. Last one.
Look, I've worked in the marketing industry for longer than I'd care to admit on this podcast, and I think there is a little bit of an inevitability to paid, and we've seen that across every channel forever, and so I'd be very surprised if that didn't happen in this one. That being said, I'm also an optimist, and I sort of look back at the last 10, 20 years of online marketing, and I see a lot of waste. I see a lot of mistakes. I see a lot of like saturated channels. And with AI, I do see an opportunity to transition from like clickable boxes to something that is a little bit more meaningful, a little bit more native, a little bit more useful to the consumer. Put simply, I think we can do a lot more with a lot less. And I think that's a great opportunity for brands. So I'm certain that as OpenAI builds out their ad program and as other AI providers build advertising into their agentic experiences, I'm certain that the industry will zig and zag. We will end up with sort of steps and missteps, and I'm sure there will be some clickable boxes somewhere along the way. But at the end of the day, I see no reason why this better, faster, smarter AI experience can't apply to paid advertising, and so that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Rex, you want to take us out?
Sure. Well, that's it for
Alex,
this episode.
Alex, we thank you for doing. Here, Rex, I think we're gonna do that one. Hey, Alex, really thank you for doing this. We'll wrap things up, but thank you. Really appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
Great discussion with you, Alex. I really appreciate it. And that's it for this episode of Decoding AI for Marketing. I'm Rex Briggs.
And I'm Greg Stewart.
Be sure to catch all our episodes, plus subscribe, follow, rate, and review in your favorite podcast app, or check us out on YouTube. You can get transcripts and more information on our website, decodingaiformarketing.com.
And to learn more about Marketing Media Alliance and membership options, please go to mmaglobal.com. Thanks for listening, everybody.